Hey guys, welcome back to the Spoilerverse. See, now I know we're a little late for the Moon Knight episode 5 breakdown, but I guarantee we got some stuff here you haven't seen yet. Let's take a look. Opening scene's very haunting scene. We get some rainwater in a cave. Then we actually get a woman yelling at the screen, just telling us it's our fault, just like every woman in my life. Then we get our first obvious showing of Jake. He is obviously a sicko, just crazy in the head. It seems like Arthur doesn't even know what to do with him, so he automatically turns on to the panic button. But also, look at Mark's face here, or Jake's face here, when the needle goes to his neck. That is just total and utter fear, and I love it. This actor is so great. Now, the reason I say this is Jake is let's just compare the three conversations here.
I mean, they must pay you a lot of money in this place. You're really good. I tell you what, I feel like $1 million. Never felt so good. Did you inject me with something? What's this?
Stephen, I'm your doctor, remember?
Oh, you're my doctor.
I'm here to help you.
Dr. Harrow, yeah? Is it?
That's right.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
You begin to see the differences. You obviously see he has a different accent, almost like a New York accent. He is a cab driver in comics, so it would make sense that he's a New Yorker. Now, guys, I need some help with this, and I hope somebody can comment down below an answer for this question. But why does it seem like every time Jake, Steven, or Mark goes to this room and talks to Arthur and has a session, he ends up helping them? Please comment. Let me know. I don't know, and it has me wondering. Once Jake is injected, we actually get to the scene where Tyrett is talking to Steve and Mark. But in this scene, it's funny. I like to credit the VFX artists and whatnot because check these mirrors. You actually see Tyrett still moving in the mirrors. And as well as that, this is all done with a hippo head on a lollipop, basically. And it's funny. I'll post some pictures here. It is hilarious, but I like to credit them. Towerette throws us a little Easter egg mentioning the Wakandan afterlife, the ancestral plane. As well as that, we see three chairs on the bottom left. Wondering if that's because Jake is missing here. And yeah, I think he really wants out. And we saw that in the first scene here. Mark says two things of interest here. One being,
Right through these doors, for example, we go through here, there's going to be a bunch of patients, and there's Crawley probably about to yell, bingo!
now to our knowledge, Steve is the friend of Crawley. So what kind of socializing does Mark do with Crawley other than the psych ward and him calling him out bingo? And then he says,
I'm not crazy. I'm dead.
and I only point this out because I think it's funny that Mark is more excited about being dead than being crazy, even though he's crazy. As the ship sails across the sand, look at this tree on the right. The tree is reminiscent of the ancestral plane tree, and this is actually the Wakandan afterlife, also located in Africa. So they could be like right next to each other in afterlife terms too. Like to mention how the imbalancing of the scale with their hearts actually references how Arthur in the first or second episode tried to judge him but couldn't because there was imbalance in it. I might be going a little off the rails with this hypothesis, but I'd like to note that some of these dead bodies in this room of Mark's victims are mangled, really fucked up. And remember back to the episode when we actually saw Mark or someone stab that body and they didn't even know who did it. Steve blamed Mark. Mark was like, "Why'd you do that?" And in that moment, we realized maybe Jake likes the killing, but not what comes after it. So Mark in the scene actually says he was hoping maybe some of them or one of them would turn around and just kill him instead. But Jacob would never let that happen. And he loves killing, so he probably would never let that happen. And that's why Mark just wakes up with all these people just dead. Here, things begin to get real. Steve actually mimics Mark's movements when mom calls over to him, and this actually begins to show us that they're the same person here, but he doesn't remember this. So this must be where we begin to see Mark is the real identity. Now the kids head off into the cave where we obviously know something tragic is about to happen. And I'd like to note that it starts raining, and Stephen actually steps on a like bird-like skeleton that looks very much like Khonshu. In this moment, I wonder if Khonshu set up the death of this child. I only wonder this because I saw Arthur and even talk that one time, and Khonshu was like making wind happen and all this stuff. So maybe he could stir. I mean, we've seen him rotate the sky. So who says he can't create rain or even just make the sky imitate a time where it was raining? Tragedy has stricken the Marvel universe, and to be honest, they had me feeling like this was a DC movie or something because that was pretty fucking dark when that killed that kid. One pretty fucked up Easter egg. I don't even know if it's an Easter egg, but it's definitely a fact. Steven is in the water looking for the kids or trying to get them to follow his voice. But this is kind of reminiscent to the fact that later on in the episode, he actually falls off the boat and drowns in the sand sea. About Mark's jacket here. It's actually funny enough, straight off of this page right here in the comics. I mentioned earlier the theme of threes going on. We got 3 Cokes on the table, 3 balloons behind Mark. This dad probably has $3 in his pocket. Like, I'm going crazy for last episode. Layla had a red scarab on her bandage, and this episode we find out her father actually has the red scarab on her scarf. And look at his eyes. He actually seems like he's been choked out, possibly with this very scarf around his neck. Pretty haunting. Here, Steven says,
That snaky old vulture. He was manipulating you from the start. No, it kept us alive. Look, he was taking advantage of you. Or it was just a way for me to keep being what I've always been.
and as we already know, Steven already had much doubt in Khonshu, but I wonder if this is going to extend and maybe grow in Mark as well, and we get that iconic scene from the Moon Knight comics. Smashes his head, has all the identities. Seems like hell has broken loose in the real world because it's just raining souls. It's raining. Oh, I'm sorry. And this must mean he's just prejudging anyone and just killing anyone he can up there just in the name of Amit. Now, this is one of those instances I was talking about earlier where I really wonder why it seems like Arthur Harrow in these sessions ends up actually helping Mark Steve. And I'm actually starting to wonder if the reason why is because if he does get them to weigh their scales correctly, then he'll just be in the afterlife and he can't stop them. Maybe.
There's only one way.
In young Mark's room, we get a barrage of Easter eggs. I'm going to break them down each of what I've found. I know there's definitely still stuff in this room. First up, we see the scales, reminding us that their souls are actually being weighed right now. Then we see sticks, which remind us of Mr. Knight. We see the picture his brother drew earlier with the fish with one fin, and sadly this reminds us that Gus is still not being fed right now. Who the fuck is feeding this fish? We got a Cubs banner reminding us he's from Chicago, and Arthur actually references earlier telling him that the asylum that they're in is in Chicago, Illinois. And definitely what I would say the 2 coolest Easter eggs in his room, one being this poster from 1977, Star Wars first movie, before they even changed it to A New Hope and whatnot, the original. And number 2, he has not 1, but 2 Buzz Lightyears in his room, probably cross-referencing the fact that Buzz Lightyear movie coming out this summer. Now this Easter egg is a little controversial to me being in Florida. This is the crocodile dentist toy, but I think they try to pass it off as a gator toy in the room, and I'm upset about it. This next part raises major questions for me. If Steven is not supposed to remember getting beat, and he doesn't remember getting beat, who's getting beat in this room? Is it Mark? Because Mark literally tells him outside of this room right after that he's not for that. He's not meant for that. That's not his purpose, is to receive the beatings. He's not supposed to know about that. So who's getting their ass whooped? Here we go again. Steven's about to break. Mark broke earlier. But let's correlate these two together and contrast what makes them break. Because first, Steven breaks right now because learning the death of his mother, which kind of is the origin of himself, is to love his mother. But Mark, what breaks him is Layla, the love of his life, like finding out that she could die. So it seems like it's always a woman so far. Steven wakes up in Arthur's room, and the first thing I realize, there's 3 jars on the right. Always going to stick to these 3s. Then he also talks about how he recognizes the room. This actually looks like the throne room where they found the sarcophagus of Alexander the Great. But other than that, it actually is the room where he fell out the window and became Mr. Knight. I give props to Steven here. Jake did notice right away almost that Arthur's not really a doctor, but so did Steven. And he actually calls him out on a couple things. He checks out his silly little diploma that's not even signed and doesn't even have a school on it. Now, this show has been a show full of purposeful camera angles and very deliberate scene making. Now, look at this scene right here. There's one light going, like it clearly looks like it's shattered, broken in the way his mind is. And then there's just a light off in the distance. I'm just naming these lights right now. This one's Jake, that one's Mark, that one's Steven. Sorry. Now allow me to think out loud for a second. I think Jake is pre-existent to even Steve. I think maybe there needed to be a protection from bullies at one point, maybe in school, and that's how we'll find out that Jake was needed at one point to beat a bully's ass. But in this scene where they're going to the mother's funeral, there's a couple cars that represent maybe a car service, and if you look in behind, when he switches back to the Steven persona, there's clearly a cab back here. It's very well hidden. Why would you even have one on set if you're going to hide it? Even this cab right here has me thinking maybe even Jake is just driving through the memories because they don't want to see him. And here, Steven gives Mark a gift so great the ground shakes. He actually gives him the gift of forgiveness and acceptance, tells him it wasn't his fault, kind of traces back to when Arthur and Steven were going at it, and he actually was like, well, would you judge a child for something they would do in 30 years? Because that's not fair. And he doesn't believe in that. He told him, no, hey, you were a kid. It wasn't your fault. Their souls were never able to balance, and now we begin to fight. Steve opens a can of whoop ass on these sand zombies, but notice this. He actually gets hurt. Once again, referencing what I said earlier, he can't deal violence. Not what he was made for, as Mark would say. And for the saddest part of the episode, listen to this. Notice how in this sad moment, Steven calls out for Mark, and it actually sounds like grasping for air or drowning almost in reference to his brother that just passed, or he remembers passing, that we just found out. Once Steve passed, I quote this because he better come back in the next episode. If he doesn't, I'm going to riot. I don't even know, Will. I'm not crying, you're crying. And then, once that happens, Mark is sent to the field of reeds, which is the Egyptian heaven. But now it just looks like hell, and I'm sad, and I hate it. And he better fucking come back. I swear to God, Marvel. He better. 2 ways I see them being saved here. One, definitely Layla. Where the fuck is Layla? Layla has to contact Khonshu somehow, free him, maybe even take the Avatar role for a quick second and save these two. Other than that, I would say maybe Jake. Jake is a wild card. He's a joker in the situation. He's able to do a lot of things that we don't know so far. So he's got plot armor. Let's do it. I don't care if Jake saves them. I don't care, Marvel. Make it happen. Once again, this is my favorite part of the video, where you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think I missed. If anything, just let me know you enjoyed the video. I really enjoy all feedback. Tell me it was trash. I don't care. Tell me something.